The Tea Party has emerged as a force to be reckoned with this election, and it's creating quite a ruckus at primaries throughout the country. What's your view on the Tea Party? Why do you think Americans are so hungry and desperate for change?
Well, I understand, and in fact, can see why the Tea Party has become such a force in American politics, because frankly, people of both parties are sick and tired of the spending. And I think there is a hunger for accountability and for people who actually to return our government to fiscal conservatism. And again, that's why I am proud of my record in the legislature, where I have actually done that, where I voted to make those tough decisions, to cut wasteful spending in government that we don't need, voted to cut Kansans taxes more than 50 times. And so I think that what we're seeing in this country is a bipartisan, nonpartisan in a sense, reaction to the fact that both parties have spent too much and that we need to get control of the challenges and be up for the challenges that really face this country. And where I think my opponent and I disagree is that I don't believe that a restoration of majority rule of one party will solve this problem. That I don't think that it's simply because of one person or one speaker. I frankly would think that both the Democratic leader in the House and the Republican leader in the House are failing to speak for Kansas. And I think that we need as fundamental difference as we get, because he does think that the world will be right as soon as one party is back in power. And what I think, if what I'm hearing the Tea Party say, and what I'm hearing voters of all stripes say, is that we need people who are independent-minded, who think that what's most important is not the party label on an idea, but whether it's a good idea. Actual fiscal conservatism instead of just talking about it as we have for the previous 10 years and the previous administration. If we can actually get back to doing this in practice, I think we can solve many of the problems that are facing our nation and that we can all agree are great challenges that we must address.
The rise of Tea Party folks is just ordinary citizens trying to take the country back. And it's a long tradition in America where citizens, when they see a government that has moved so far away from the will of the people, who passes laws that they've not read, that passes legislation that enormous amounts of Americans disagree with, that passes a health care bill without a single vote from the other party. When that happens in history, when that happens, you see movements arise. You see folks who say, I'm going to go be part of this. I'm going to be part of a restoration of the great American entrepreneurial spirit. And I think that's what the Tea Party folks are saying. They say, thank you, big federal government. We'll be just fine. Please let us do the things that we've done that have made this nation so great. Now, Representative Goyle talked about me thinking things would be right if there was one party rule. We have that now, and it's not. So Representative Goyle speaks with great eloquence about being bipartisan, but when he goes to vote, votes with the Democrats 93% of the time. That 93% voting record is neither bipartisan nor moderate. What we know is this, is that we do hold very different views. We hold different views about the role of our federal government in society, and those are places we should disagree, and we should do so forcefully, and we're doing so yet this evening. Representative Goyle, however, tells you that he's a fiscal conservative, while he voted for the two largest budgets in the history of the state of Kansas. If they say look to history to find the future, I'm not sure. I think Representative Goyle is the fellow to send to Washington, D.C. to shrink the size of the federal government. I am perfectly prepared to be bipartisan. I agree with Representative Goyle. Best idea wins. If a good idea emanates from someone who is not from my party, I can assure you I will support it vigorously. Should Speaker Pelosi come up with a good idea, I will be the first one. I will absolutely be the first one in line. It is not about partisanship. It's about leadership. It's about finding those best ideas and working hard to implement them and make sure that we don't have a federal government that is so disconnected from the people that these Tea Party folks feel like they are not represented in America.
I'm surprised we're an hour into the debate, and it's the first time my opponent's brought up this 93% voting record, because he omits the second half of that, the fact, which is that the same source cited that I voted with Republicans 80% of the time. So, it's easy to describe my partisanship, but the fact is, I've lived it. In fact, 89% of the bills that I sponsored in the legislature, I co-sponsored with Republicans. So the fact of the matter is, there is a way to approach issues in a bipartisan manner, and we absolutely need to take that approach in Congress to solve these problems. And I must say, with all due respect, there's not an ounce or any evidence in the record, in this campaign or in my opponent's background, to support the notion that he would actually support an idea that was supported by somebody from the other party. He is committed. He simply never ran for public office. He ran for the state party chair and lost in 2007. He's a Republican National Committee man, a job that has one position and one obligation only: support your party at all costs.
Representative Goyle keeps attacking my volunteer tasks. He talked about my role in the think tank. I never got paid for that. I did it in my free time, with my own goodwill. He spent 3 years of his life drawing a paycheck from a nonprofit organization that caused the very policies that have destroyed jobs in Kansas today. And if you want to look to how I'll behave in Washington, D.C., you should look. Tonight I've criticized the Republican Party on many occasions. I don't think they've been serious about immigration. I wish that the Republican Party had not supported the bailouts and the TARP programs. I've absolutely taken stands that are at odds with many of the things that members of my party have advocated for so very long. But if, in fact, you're asking me whether I think the ideas that this administration has put forward have been good ones, you need only look to unemployment here in Kansas to answer that question.